Okay. All right. Cool. We're
Yeah,
live.
so to get to it, you
Mhm.
you know you use the phrase heroes, and that sounds like a great phrase, and it seems a justifiable one. You said I think somebody got 4K emails. Is that did I remember that correctly?
Close. Like 4K. I mean, it's still going. 4K followers
Followers.
on Farcaster, but then in addition, 3K email subscriptions. Yeah.
Well, can you break that down? I mean, who is it? What are they offering? I mean, what was the step by step on that? I mean, are they famous or how did that? I mean,
No,
that's great.
I don't think they're famous. So I am in a Twitter chat group with a couple of builders and founders, I guess, who are particularly interested in the base ecosystem. And
Right.
he's actually the guy who invited me into that group. So the way it started was an artist um, mentioned that there's this base publication, Twitter publication, basically that was just looking at new projects and stuff. So I just shot them a DM. They looked at Basement. He's actually so yeah. He's actually the one who runs the publication. I think it's called Based Media, and also was a member of this group. So
So
he
I'm sorry. So Base Media is a Twitter based group, or is that open to the public, or what is that?
yeah, it's like a publication. It's like a web publication where they write like short articles and stuff about new
So it's a
projects.
website.
It has I think they publish actually I think they publish through Paragraph. So
Okay.
it's basically like like a journalist, I guess,
Okay.
like Web
Okay.
three journalist, or maybe PR, something like that. So yeah. So anyway, in the spirit of trying the app out, he's actually been very patient. Just like giving it a shot. He's actually sent me some feedback and stuff like that, like written feedback in terms of things that could be helpful, things that maybe need to be fixed, and yeah, and I think it was in the in the context of doing that stuff, he was testing it out, and he's just like, I'm just gonna, cast the frame out and see what happens. I think at the time he casted it out, he had maybe 500 followers, like thereabouts, something like that. So definitely not like famous or anything like that. But I do think like because some of the things that he created the based nouns collection, so an NFT
Okay.
collection.
Well, I mean, so he's got a track record for sure.
Yeah, so he has definitely been active in the space. So um,
So, so his own work was nouns, or was it what kind of stuff is his own work?
so his own work is that collection based nouns, and I don't know if they're officially affiliated. Actually, I don't know what the history is there,
Right.
but if not officially affiliated, they are definitely heavily inspired. I'll
Yeah.
say,
I mean,
right?
right there. Even I know base plus nouns is a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, so I think it's like anything on base right now. It's grassroots, right? So he's
Right.
there's a couple of people in the group chat. One guy did the I actually like this project a lot. The on chain dinos. I don't know if you've seen that, but I picked up a dino actually, um, which just for fun. And yeah, no, I think there's a couple of pretty cool projects, pretty cool like builders in that little circle. So it was cool. It was
Okay. So
fortunate.
I want to rewind here. So it was through the frames that he gained all those, or through basement.
Um, Both, I guess you could say. He basically, one of the things that Basement allows you to do is to create an NFT within the app in Basement and then share it out to Farcaster, and the app will effectively do all the work to turn it into a frame.
Okay. See, I'm missing that. I keep poking in there and I post stuff, but I don't see anything like any levers I can pull or
I
any
know.
buttons I can push or anything. I mean, is it because he has the secret
No,
password
no,
or something?
it's available
Okay,
to
I'll
everyone,
keep
but
trying.
maybe the UX needs to be a little more obvious. So No, anytime you put content in there, so you kind of hover over, and then you'll get some of the icons on the
Okay.
side,
Okay.
and
So I'm sorry. So like adding a photo or adding a JPEG, is that correct?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. I have to try this.
yeah. So any pretty much any media type, so audio file, image, or even a video file should work. Video file up to 50 megabytes.
Wow.
Um, and basically it'll walk you through, hey, if you don't have a collection set up ready, it'll walk you through, hey, you need to set up a collection. So you just set it up, you deploy a collection. Once the collection's set up, it'll just kind of assign that to
I'm
your
sorry.
base.
So again, this offering of the collection is if you hover over it, if you hover over
Yeah,
it, it will. Okay.
basically,
I
when
need to try that.
yeah, when you hover over the message you created, so like let's say you post an image with some text, so it becomes like an image, it's like a group chat, right? You just post a photo and some text line,
Right.
a caption, I guess. Um, if you hover over that, the icon will kind of move, and then you'll see a drop icon that looks like a water
Okay.
drop. When
Well,
you
I've got to try that.
Yeah, when you click the water drop, the first time you click it, you won't have a collection set up for your basement, so it'll basically throw up. Well, firstly, what you need to do is get some gas into your account, which I think you
Uh-huh.
do anyway in yours. But like $2 worth or something, maybe $3 worth just to be safe.
Now,
But
again, let's rewind there. So when you say putting it into my account, that is through my MetaMask wallet.
um, so the way Basement is set up when you log in with so it's all social media based, right? So if you log
Right.
in with your email or Google or Facebook account, it'll generate a wallet for you, and that's the wallet that will hold the balance as far as using the app. And you
Well,
can
then how do I input? And I may have done this. I just want to make sure that I've got a process
there's
here. So
yeah, so there's three ways. One, somebody else buys your key for actually like an actual price, which I think I might have bought your key.
I
I
think
can't
you
quite
did. I
recall.
remember you
I
saying
think
that
I
you
might have
did.
bought your
So
key, which is why I think you have a balance. So that's
okay.
one way. Second way is you buy your own key, which you can do. You can buy your own key. Like for instance, you could buy your own key with credit card.
Right.
Thirdly, you can go to your account page. You can go to your account page at any time by clicking your balance. Like in the upper right, you click the balance, it'll go to your account page. And
Right.
then it'll show you your wallet address. So you could just deposit base ETH from your wallet into that wallet.
Okay.
Or I actually have a deposit page too, just like kind of based on the friend tech workflow. So
Right.
there is like a separate page where you can then also connect a MetaMask and then actually deposit it directly and stuff like that. There's just a lot more steps involved there, but it is there if somebody wants to use it. But yeah, those are basically the three ways. So,
Okay. Thank you.
but yeah, once you have gas, then you hover over on the collection, click the drop icon, and if you don't have a collection for that basement yet, that room, it'll just throw up a really simple, kind of pop up and say, hey, you need to create a collection. Basically, you put in an image, percentage royalties you want as like a default, and then name of the collection, and a couple seconds after that should be deployed. And
Okay.
then, yeah.
Now let's say I have 100. I actually have a series right now that's not 100. But then would I do those one by one, or is this not the proper platform to do a big series like that?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I was thinking about that actually as we were doing our drops. Right now, it's more of a UX thing. It's not really set up. It's possible to set up, but you basically just, or rather, I would basically just have to think through the UI UX to be able to do that. The way Basement's currently set up, it's more for like, spontaneously converting
Okay.
the content within the chat into an
I
actual
see.
NFT.
I
But
see.
I mean, this is the thing I've been contemplating over the past couple of days is like where to take Basement next, and I'm open. Yeah.
Well, sorry, it's just that I would be thrilled if someone would be there to talk to, but I don't know how to get that traffic in. I mean, that guy's got 4K. That's excellent. I mean, imagine he goes on there and people want to speak to him, but I mean, I could,
Yeah.
crickets.
Yeah. No. So I mean, that's part of the thing I've been trying to kind of solve is like if you're starting from scratch in in any situation, like what's the lowest friction way to start getting people engaged and all that stuff. So you actually do have people on your email lists,
Well, okay, good.
right?
That's another thing that I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
about because, it's been my limited experience in talking to other people
Mm.
that when you get people to sign up for free, that it's not necessarily
Right.
like, not so much with this, but like if you're testing an app and you get people to do it for free, it's kind of like not reliable to count upon that. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is that situation, but I'm just wondering, where did these people come from that give me or give you their email?
Yeah. 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 It's a fair question. It's a fair question and a fair point. So I think my so far my assessment is a lot of them are international.
Right.
So far flung places, whatnot. I've seen, you know, I don't know how I can tell. I mean, sometimes you can just tell kind of from the email and the name and stuff like that, like Indonesia and
Right.
Japan, and it's like,
But do I have access to this, or only you have access to this, or is it just
um,
behind the
no,
screen,
no.
or
I
what?
mean, the intent. So I actually just haven't built the button for it yet, but
Oh,
the intent is certainly to be able to share the email addresses for people who have signed up, so you could get access. Like maybe I'll do that. Like I'll put that on my to do list for tomorrow. Actually, maybe I'll. But basically, yeah. I mean, the whole idea is that you as the owner of your room should have access to your users and your followers.
right. I
So
mean, I'd like to say thank you and maybe say, hey, next, on the 18th at 6 p.m. EST, I'll be
yeah,
in there if you want to chat, and then that we'll
right,
see
right,
what
right.
happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's true. So I'll put that on my to do list. But like currently, the way in addition to doing that, you could communicate with them directly. Certainly, the same
But
way.
how? When you say I could communicate with them directly, how? I mean, if I post a
Well,
message in there,
yeah,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
So there, I'll kind of tackle that two ways. So again, any message you post into the basement, there's like a share button. Same thing. You hover over, and then the different icons pop up.
Okay.
One of them is a. Actually, it's the recast button. Um, but so when you share content, you can actually share it to different channels, right? So different, mediums, I guess. So one is you can share it to all your email subscribers. If you check that box, it'll send it out to all the people subscribed. And then the other is you can check it. You can check Farcaster, right? So if it's just a regular message and not an NFT, it'll just share it as such. It'll share it as a post, basically, or a cast. And for the email subscribers, it'll just compile the image. That obviously it won't do like audio and video and stuff like that, but it'll take any image attributed to that message and the text and put it into like a little email and say, hey, there's an exclusive message from so and so. They open the email, it'll see the content, and I'm pretty sure I put a link in there too, so they can go directly to the basement. But yeah, so that's how you would do it, right? But otherwise, again, intention is to have the actual email list be downloadable too. So if you wanted to use some other medium, just like a straight up, mass email or something like that, then that's also an option.
Well, I mean, if it can, that's just it. If it can go through a basement, that's fine. It doesn't matter how. It's just like, again,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm going to do if I'm going to do an AMA or something,
Hmm.
how do I
Right,
reach those people?
right, right, right. So one thing I'm starting to, because this guy, his screen name is OX Das.
Right.
His actual name I think is Harry. But anyway, OX Das. Uh, he definitely believes in the value of like this being able to share, like, so especially the frame stuff. So
Right.
anyway, I'm starting to take all this, like, absorb this feedback, and what I might do is just revisit the UX stuff and just make that much more obvious, or just figure out a way to just make that like just much more user friendly and discoverable and stuff, rather than tucking it away in like a hover over hideable button thingy.
Well, I mean, once you know, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
now that I know, I'll do it. But I maybe I told you when I was suddenly somehow working for the 3D game making company, they called me the caveman, and that was because if Steve can do it, anybody can do it, right?
That's sometimes a really good barometer. Well, like, what do they
Well,
say?
it is
Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah,
if I was telling somebody about it, I
yeah,
mean, and also, I mean, it's a little bit on you because
yeah,
there's no instructions, right? And of
yeah.
course, instructions everybody ignores anyway. But still,
That's right.
even if you had
Yeah,
like a screen cap of you doing it, right?
yeah,
If you had a short video, 5 seconds,
yeah,
you actually casting an NFT,
yeah, yeah. So
then
I
I
have,
would watch that.
I have. So this is on me because I have, and maybe this is again on the to-do list. I have the ability to pop up like little tooltips, and I have that on
Right,
some of the main menu buttons, for instance. But I don't have
right,
that on that side button on the content. So maybe I'll do that.
right.
That's one. Second, I do have the pop-ups where you have a little tutorial video and an explanation and caption stuff.
Okay,
But I haven't necessarily done it for the minting, which again,
right.
I mean, I have it for like
No, it's all
you know,
good. It's all
platform
good. I mean,
announcement.
that's the
No, no,
that's
I'm,
the fun.
cause I think you're right. You know, I think it's funny. It's like those the little gaps that show up.
But I mean, have other people minted in the conversation?
Um, yes, but usually with some hand holding, right? So
Okay,
we have this team of music producers who are like kind of running a contest inside basements, and they've as part of the contest they actually have been posting some of their beats and stuff. They're like hip hop producers.
right, right. I've listened to that. That's good,
Yeah,
good stuff.
yeah, yeah. And so they I've kind of walked them through how to mint those directly. I actually don't think they've done it yet, mostly because they're kind of just sharing. When they mint stuff, they want it to be more of a snippet than the whole song. So it's a little bit of a different use case. But yeah, actually, you know what? Now that we're talking, I think I do need to make that much more self-serve. So good, good, good. This is good. Yeah. So anyway, maybe circling back all the way back. This is a good segue back to OXDOS and his stuff. So, he was kind of again patiently testing out the app. Cast a frame directly from Basement. Showed up, worked.
I'm sorry, casting a frame. See, that sounds exciting to me. I mean, maybe you've told me that 100 times, but I've
Yeah.
been thinking, is a frame something that I can even begin to try to do, or do I always have to, you know? But you're saying I can cast a frame. But for example, I've seen frames that are questions or polls, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like two choices. Is this something that can be done with Basement? Or
Right
when
now.
you
So right now.
define what you can do with a frame, or what I could do,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
caveman could do with a
So,
frame.
in some ways, I guess maybe I tackled the harder one first, which is the mintable frame, right? So the way it's set up right now, you cast if you have an NFT that you've created in your room, and then you share that to Farcaster, it'll automatically convert it into a mintable frame. And
With an open edition?
Yeah, so basically the way it works again, this is through trial and error and learning this. When DOS sent out his frame, like he basically crushed my back end in a good way. Like it was like 10,000 pings or something like that in like the first 2 hours or something like that.
So he went in there, he posted a JPEG, he hovered
Mm-hmm.
over it, and then he hit cast to Farcaster or through his emails.
Well, one more step in between there. So he added an image, hovered over, minted it in Basement. So in Basement, you take any content, you can convert it into an NFT, right? So he minted it into an NFT, or created an NFT, and then he hovered over the NFT and then shared that to Farcaster. And that's once you do that, Basement basically behind the scenes, it'll generate the images, the frame images. It'll generate the logic, and then connect the dots basically behind the scenes, and then also generate the link that you would then share to Farcaster, like the embedded URL that basically is the the starting point of any frame. So basically, yeah, it kind of does that on your behalf. Certainly, other types of frames are possible. Again, I think in some ways, I mean, maybe until transaction frames come out in the next few days. For now, mintable frames are like probably the more complex thing. But yeah, other ones like the paragraph frame. Definitely doable. Like I could create something where it's a dynamic content.
It's not so much a feature request. I'm just wondering what is available now.
Yeah, yeah.
So now it's just basically just mint, right?
Yeah, mintable frames.
Once it
Oh,
once it hits once it hits Farcaster, they can mint that NFT. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah. And actually, the point, on open edition. So the way it's set up, um, I actually, after Das sent his thing out and like blew up the back end, I realized, I might need to put some tiers on this thing because, um, his was set up, I think, for 1,000 mints or something like that. And what kind of happens weirdly, this is still maybe just like an ongoing experiment, but the order of magnitude of the engagement and all that does seem to be a multiple of the amount of like free mints that are available. So, and we've kind of seen that through some of like, so if you have a collection of 100 or something, you'll get, 5x to 10x or something in terms of engagement, right? So like 500, 600 likes, recast, something like that. And he, in terms of Das and his thing, we set it up for 1,000 free mints, and he ended up getting probably similar, like 5,000 interactions, right? Um,
Wow.
and so, maybe more actually. It's still kind of going on, but um, where was I? Oh, right. So anyway, coming out of that does cost gas. So somebody has to pay for the gas, which I have been paying basically.
Oh,
And so, I think the way I kind of set it up now is like, anybody who comes in on a free basis or whatever, they could share it out and have like 10 free mints, let's say.
right.
And then
Sorry. So in your UX, there's a you can set I'm sorry, you can set the number.
Um, not yet. So basically I'm kind of manually doing that right now. So like
Right.
for if I know someone who's like gonna try something, I'll kind of toggle their account to like 100 or something like that. Actually, Das sent another frame out yesterday, and that one was set to 100. Um, so also on my to-do list is to kind of set, and this is actually one of the points of feedback that Das provided was like, you know, um, let make it easier for people to contribute their own gas or pay their own gas for a mint,
Right.
or make it more clear how much the platform is subsidizing that
Right.
gas.
Yeah.
But just basically give them options. That has not been built yet, so that's again kind of real time feedback and learnings. So yeah, so I think it's actually it's not only the gas but also the compute of interestingly of capturing the email subscriptions, right? So like every time, I mean the way frames work, right? Every time they're interacting, every time they push a button or somebody pushes a button, they are pinging some API, and usually that's an API you have set up. So in Basement's terms, the Basement app has an API interface, right?
Okay.
And I have a set of API workflows that communicate and basically do all the frame things. Like, I push this button and they don't have a like and a recast. I got to show them this next image and basically give them the options for the next image. Or, hey, they passed that hurdle, but oops, we're minted out. Okay, I got to show them the sold out image and give them options on that front, and yet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So every time they ping the API, again, somebody has to pay for that compute, right? Currently, I'm basically doing that. So, so in addition to having the gas for 1,000 mints, there's like the compute, which does add up. I mean, individually, it's like pretty tiny, but the compute related to like 10,000 email or 10,000 API interactions, right? Or
Wow.
it probably could have been higher. All in is probably because sometimes people push the button multiple times, right? And what they don't realize is every time they push the button, there's something going on in the back
Yeah.
end.
That
And
sounds like something I would do. Hey, nothing happened. Let me
right,
hit
right,
five
right.
times.
So I haven't tallied it, but it's probably maybe even closer to like 15 or 20,000. So, but again, like for science, right? Like do it for do it for science.
Right.
So yeah, but anyway, that's why I think I need to implement some sort of tiering, or something like that. So or have someone be able to contribute their own gas, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Before I forget, I just remembered New York Tech Week is in June this year.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you remember I went to that, of course, but I
Mm-hmm.
also made a presentation. So,
Mm-hmm.
if we get this rocking and rolling, which we are,
Yeah.
it can be I can weave basement into that, maybe even a separate thing because I came in with AR, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing to them saying I'd like to do some sort of presentations. Well, let me bring it home here. What if, like in the next half hour, I put up a JPEG of cherry blossoms,
Mm-hmm.
and I just tried to do. So let me see if I've got this right. First thing I would do is I would upload it, then hover over it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then I would mint it there. I would be given the option to mint it there.
Yep. Click the drop icon. If you don't have a collection, it'll ask you to deploy a collection, and then the next time you hit that same icon, the drop icon, then you'll be able to like input the actual
Okay,
NFT
well,
frame.
see, I'm confused here because collection implies more than one, right? If I'm just doing one, do I need to do that? Or should I
Well,
do two? Or should I do
yeah.
two to
So let
call
me
it
let me maybe reuse a different terminology. You'll need a contract, right? So
a, okay.
you need to deploy a contract that NFT will be, you know, maybe what's the right terminology? The contract that NFT will be minted to, if that makes sense, right? I mean, people use collection and contract interchangeably, but I think to the point you just raised, it's a little bit muddled, right? Because like collection has the art connotations, so um,
Right,
the way I typically think about it is the collection is more equated to the contract. So yeah,
right,
you know, to create an NFT, you need an underlying contract that does the stuff, right? That actually creates
right,
the token
right,
and blah blah blah.
right.
So that's what we're talking about, right? If you don't have a contract attributed to your basement yet, and you click that drop icon, it'll just do a pop up and it'll ask you, "Hey, do you want to deploy?" I think it'll still use the terminology collection, but let's just say, "Do you want to deploy a
Okay, okay.
contract?" Yeah.
Now that collection or that contract is
Mm-hmm.
true for everything I ever post on there or for that specific image.
Yeah, that's so. The way it's currently set up is that, and again, subject to change, but my thought process here is it'd be kind of interesting to have an ongoing one contract reflecting any NFTs minted to a particular
Okay,
conversation, like that basement, that room, right?
right.
And I actually posted and minted something on this like maybe a couple days ago where um, uh, dinner's ready. No. So um, I think I posted on this a couple days ago, which is, you know, have people have has there been much work or much like many projects that have viewed or dealt with NFT collections as like a timeline? And
Mhm.
there must have been, but I haven't really seen any that at least have kind of crossed my path. So like I did, I don't know where I saw it, but I recall maybe it was probably on Twitter, something, a kind of a mini thread. It wasn't like a viral thing or anything, but somebody was kind of posting like, hey, what are the different ways we could use a contract, right? An NFT um, smart contract, right? And it was like, use it as an art collection, use it as like this and that. Um, and just in working in basement, it occurred to me like, what if you could use like, what if you could use it as a timeline, as almost an archive over a period of time, and make it such that the the friction to creating content is so low that you can just kind of more capture like spontaneous moments, right? Like, um, and who knows, right? So if you capture a point in time and you capture it on chain for someone who goes on to like do big things or whatever, or breaks ground somehow, right?
Right.
It'd be kind of cool to be able to look at back and see, oh, like here's some early thoughts or just early images or concepts or something. It
So
doesn't
you're
even
thinking like
necessarily
screen cap? It could be anything, but like screen
could be
caps more
anything.
as
Yeah,
opposed.
right. It doesn't even necessarily need to be project related, like related to their art
Right.
specifically. It just could be the development of their thought process or just random ideas or whatever,
Right.
right?
I mean, I do that all the time, but
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that do you know, Apple has that thing, what are they called? Apple
Notes.
has no, it's, Freeform. Do
Oh,
you know Freeform
no,
on
I
Apple?
haven't heard of that one.
It's just like a whiteboard, and you can put links up there, you can put text
Oh,
up there, you
okay.
can put
Okay.
photos and
That's
stuff
cool.
like that. And I
Yeah.
use that all the time. And
Yeah.
and to me, I sometimes think, oh, these are kind of nice looking and kind of interesting, but nobody
Yeah.
else is going to care.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but they are like a really an in-depth snapshot of a
Yeah,
project before you start to really do proper outlines and then
yeah,
proper scheduling, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's in, again, this is evolving, right, in real time, but it's in the spirit of that I thought would be interesting to have, to just kind of streamline it such that you have one contract for your basements. Any NFT you mint goes to that contract, and then if over time it continues to be used or whatnot, you could see like some sort of progression, right? Like of like here
Right,
are my
right.
earliest mints, and then like
Well,
things
I
that
mean,
went on.
if it could be dedicated, I'm going to fork here a little bit because one thing I'm curious about is that I see all these things on Warpcast about mint, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, if somebody's minting like 4 or 5 things a day, what does their wallet look like? How do you, I mean, I've never gotten to that
Mm.
point, but I mean, does it automatically organize it by date or by time or like how do you, I mean, what does a wallet look like?
Yeah, that's a fair question. That's a fair
Because I'm
question.
sorry, because to
That's
bring it back to what we just talked
Yeah.
about, if I've got like a 5 East piece next to Steve's little scribbles on a, well, it's an interesting contrast, but you
Well,
probably want to showcase
yeah.
things differently than that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some apps have tackled that head on. Like there's gallery.so and probably others where it's about the collector's point of view, and they're able to curate and literally manually put things side by side as if you're curating a museum exhibit
Right,
type of
right.
thing. So there's definitely those. So that's one approach. But yeah, I don't think there's a default. Just generally, like if you open your MetaMask and view the NFTs, it's just chaotic. Like it's just blah, and then it
Right.
spits it all
Well, I
out.
mean, I would think that that's something that somebody would have jumped on because, just through my little experience, thanks to you with OpenSea, I'm trying to see what other people have collected, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
and that's kind of interesting because I'm thinking most of those people have 20 or less.
Yeah.
So maybe
Hmm.
maybe they have a dedicated wallet just for freebies or things, and then they
Hmm.
have it would make sense
Yeah.
that people have different wallets, and that's how the curation happens.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I think I think that's an interesting point too. Yeah, for sure. So I I think maybe this actually circles all the way back to your question of like who is minting these things. I think it's partially degens, partially people who are international, partially both. The overlap between the two. I think they're
Right.
all just kind of like some are like very intentionally doing it, like basically farming these things. And
Now,
yeah.
sorry, I know I've got so many questions, but when you say farming, I mean, I see that the airdrops and farming.
Hmm.
That means that people just scour the horizon for airdrops, get them,
More or
and then
less, more or less. And
that's,
in this season and in this cycle, who knows? Like that's the thing. It's a little bit like playing the lottery, I guess. But like,
yeah,
um, not only could the value of that NFT go up potentially, but we're seeing more stuff come out. Zora just did a thing where they're just releasing an airdrop. So if you're active in certain ways and different parameters, then you'll get an
right.
airdrop of tokens and yada yada. So I think people are just like shooting their shot, like just trying different things, whatever they come across.
Yeah, that thing about throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing if it
Yeah,
sticks.
yeah, spaghetti. But I think that the interesting thing here is I'm in another chat with some artists who musicians in this case, and independent of me like kind of came across this concept too because they've been minting on like sound.xyz maybe or maybe Zora, some of those places.
Right.
But because something like Base now exists, right, where the gas fees are still not like invisible. They're still they could still cost something, but they're low enough now. Again, like what happens when you lower the friction um, of minting and interacting with the chain to the point that now people can actually create things on chain that are more spontaneous, right? And so
Right.
there's literally a conversation in the chat of like, hey, I've always been thinking about my art as the main thing, but maybe I should just think about like NFTs as more of like a social media, like another version of social
You
media,
know,
right?
I've been studying this for years, and I think what it is now is that it's luck and it's the brand.
Yeah,
I mean, like Bored Apes being the one extreme, that was a whole marketed thing where
yeah,
boom, they had big bucks, or they somehow got big bucks eventually.
yeah.
And then there's like the guy with the MFers. I mean, I remember when I first saw that, it's just like a crayon drawing, and
Yeah, yeah,
and I don't know what those are worth now, but how could that guy have
yeah.
predicted where he is now? I assume that those are still a big deal.
They're one of the blue chip collections
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and same thing on ordinals. You got the puppets, it's like a little hand drawn smudgy thing, which is like all the rage in Bitcoin circles, right? So, um, yeah, I think that concept, that aspect of things of viewing NFTs now, in addition to viewing them as high art potentially and actually collectibles and collections, maybe viewing them as more of like an archive, a timeline of just like you know concepts and thoughts and stuff like that, right?
Well, see, again, my perspective on this is when you come into OpenSea, assuming that that's the standard or the thing upon which you would make judgments, the first thing you see is like the stock market thing.
Yes, that's fair.
That
Mm-hmm.
and what you're saying, what we're talking about now is like the opposite of that. Well, yeah, let's just put these out and see what happens.
Yeah.
And with AI coming in and all this stuff, there's going to be a flood of them.
See, I think the AI stuff, because I've talked about this with some folks too, and then I think I maybe posted on this just the other day, which is like, um, there's going to be a lot more content. I think people kind of know that now with AI, right? Like the natural cause and effect there is just we're going to have another explosion. If we think the explosion of content we've seen so far has been big, like wait till it really gets going.
Yeah, it's going to be out of control.
Right. It's going to be out of control. In which case, I actually weirdly think that circles back, and even if you're like minting little things, what we now perceive as little things, like just again spontaneous comments, could be even memes or images or just like whatever. I think that actually will have outsized value in the future because so much of our content is going to be just artificially created, right? And we'll look back and we'll say that was a period of like authentic stuff captured on chain because people didn't know what was going to happen. Like people didn't, most people aren't foreseeing like the the upcoming just like kind of when these things go head to head, right? It's like authenticity versus mass, unlimited instant content generation, right? It's like how do these things interact? So that I actually think they're very closely related. It's like again in this one chat group I kind of posted, I was like, in the future, I think it will very well be possible to feed, let's say, your old family photos or images or videos. Especially now, we've been in this kind of we've had this technology for a dozen years or so more. We have like high resolution videos and stuff of like our kids, growing up and all this stuff. And I think we have all the pieces to do this. You basically, let's feed 100 albums of photos, images, and videos and stuff like that. And I can foresee a future where an AI basically creates the ability to relive that moment, right?
Yeah.
Through a combination of generative
voice synthesis,
generative video, deep fake, AI personality agents. We have all the pieces to do that. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of like who does it and when, right? And so, the next thing that occurred to me was like, wow, like if that is true, in somewhat of the same way, like what is the value of those early images now in that context? And this kind of made me think about my mom, because my mom is actually going through some health issues right now where she's like losing her memory and things like that. And so if you think about that in like certainly that could be used in other like crazy ways, but the one that I kind of gravitated towards was like like kind of end of life phases where like if you're in deteriorating health, like maybe that's like the best way to spend some of your moments is like to actually just be present in something that is weirdly artificial but like very authentic to you, which is a past memory or past experience or literally speaking to someone from the past. And the way this kind of circles back is like, then the next thought for me is like, whoa, do we really want those memories to be Google and Apple owned? Right? It's like, what, like 99% of those are in Google Photos or Apple iCloud right now. And
Yeah,
when they
good point.
realize that, what is the implication of that? And so, is there, and then I kind of posed this to the group I was in, which is like, does that make the case for having actually some of our most pivotal memories actually stored on chain rather than Google Photos or Apple iCloud? Where in the future, you know, again, I don't know. From there, I kind of lose the thread. I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to, like clamp down or whatever? Probably not. Maybe, I don't
Well,
know.
they might even offer a service like click
They
here if
might
you
offer
want
a service,
if
and
you
then
want if you
yeah,
want that birthday party from 20 years ago to be in 3D, click here
yeah,
and
yeah. Well, I mean,
put in your credit card or
I
whatever.
mean, as like going deep into the Vision Pro stuff, that's one of the things they marketed, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
you wear the
Yeah.
Vision Pro to record your
Yeah.
daughter's birthday, and then
Yeah.
now you have an augmented reality memory
Yeah.
that you can step into, right? Which
Yeah.
is so they're already there, right? They just haven't necessarily taken the next leap, which is I can do that with past, non
Yeah.
AR augmented recordings and just other stuff like
Well,
like
I'm
past.
waiting for the consumer version. It's either going to be next Christmas or the Christmas after that, and they'll probably show, relive Christmas from
I
1992 or whatever,
I mean,
and that'll be
you and I both see it, right? It's gonna
yeah,
happen. It's just a
yeah,
matter of who does it, when, right? That type of thing. And then so that raises other questions of like, so it's like, in that world where I can literally step into any past moment, right? Um, in some ways it's kind of dystopian, but I think in some ways it's like it reveals the value of things that seem small and again spontaneous or minuscule, like right now. Um, but if you picture things, X number of years ahead, where that is now then the given, and it's almost like a net present value thing, right? You discount the value of that back to now, and you realize, wait a minute, these little moments now are actually, again, like have an outsized value, you know.
right, right.
So I think from a that again, all kind of circles back. I don't know if basement is the thing, like we're still playing around with it, but the concept I think there is, um, you know, what what would happen, what will happen if we start to archive some of these things on chain. And again, it doesn't have to be anything groundbreaking or like I solved world peace or anything. It just again could be these spontaneous moments, but like accrued over
Right.
time. Um, they could be these like little mini moments of authenticity that have just some value in the future, right? Like whether it's personal value or actually externally validated value, that remains to be seen. But even personal value, right? Like things you can kind of look back and be like, yeah, like oh, I remember minting that, or I remember what like frame of mind I was in when I minted that, or right,
Yeah. Well, not to get too meta, but even this actual video right now, in
Yeah.
5 years, 10 years,
Oh man. Yeah, dude.
you could pull off an audio clip and mint it, or I could,
Yeah.
but
I
you could
mean,
do
for
it faster.
sure.
But yeah,
Exactly to the point, man. Exactly to the
yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah.
So, anyhow, those are some of the
Yeah, this
some of
this
the
is
things.
good. Again, I am going to condense all this. I don't know when. I think April's going to be shot, but
Yeah.
maybe May, because if we can get it together, because I would like to get some sort of ebook or something, and when
Yeah.
I go into New York Tech Week, really be able to this time maybe talk to them about money and see what
Yeah.
goes on. Because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be this plus AR.
Yeah.
See, well, I don't want, because we're recording, I can't talk about my top secret plans, but.
Right. Right. Right.
But for now,
Yeah.
I'll put up a cherry blossom thing
Yeah.
on
Give it a try.
basement and see if I can do it all the way through.
I was going to say on your earlier thing about the caveman comments, some people have done really well with that approach. I mean, Jack Ma for Alibaba, he's famous for like not being a technical guy, but that was their
Right.
secret. Is like if he could do it and understand it, then they're like, okay, we're good, right? So,
Yeah.
he did
Yeah.
pretty well for himself. So yeah, man, I do have to hop. I've got
Yeah.
niece and
Yeah.
nephew here and stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but
Well, thanks again for your time and for everything else. So
yeah,
I'll
no,
get on that.
th- th-
And
yeah, thanks to you too for like coming up with this idea, being a bit of a forcing function to just get us to hop on and like articulate some of these all the random stuff floating around.
Yeah.
And I think exactly to the point you raised, I think who knows, but there's certainly no downside right now to just like archiving a little bit of our thoughts in this moment in time,
Yeah.
because I do think like I think we're on the cusp of like a lot of multiple inflection points that are starting to converge.
Yeah, and last thing, I think, Warpcast, that's going to change pretty soon too. Right now, it's really fun to see the founders on there and be able to be,
I
watching
think
them. But
so.
once that explodes, it's going to be, where am I and what is this place? And it might maybe not in a bad way, but it'll just be very different.
I think it will be different. I think it will be different, but to their credit, I actually just finished Read Write Own too, so I read the whole thing in a couple days. But I think this is where the rubber hits the road a bit. Is like what we hypothesize that there's some big benefits, societal or like community benefits for building the foundation level of a platform as a decentralized platform. One of which being that it's kind of like the remix option, right? People will be able to take some of the core components of Farcaster and remix them into either different applications altogether, different UXs, different experiences, right? And so I think even if Warpcast itself becomes something different, it's actually gonna be, I mean, the hope is, right, it's actually gonna be one of many, like lots of different variations of ways to interact with the social graph that is Farcaster, right? Because like technically Farcaster is the social graph, Warpcast is the app or a app, and the goal is, if they keep to this, hopefully, to keep the Farcaster protocol open such that anybody can build, if they want, a second Warpcast, but more likely something completely different altogether,
Right.
that just leverages the social graph, So I think, I think that'll be a big test, right? Like if Warpcast kind of turns weird or whatever, like there's still a saving grace there,
Yeah.
which is
Well, last thing, I've been trying to set up a channel, and to do that, you need to buy warps, and I can't seem to buy warps. When I go there, it says check your email, and evidently I did that like 3 weeks ago, and I got the email, but then I never acted upon that. So now I'm ready to act upon it, and it on my laptop it says block, that the pop-ups are blocked, and as far as I know, I've shut it off.
Yeah.
And I'm still not getting that. And on my mobile, it's not activated. So I don't know. Maybe they've frozen the channels, but I doubt that, because I'm sure they would have posted that somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the,
but I think, no, I haven't bought any warps yet. But I think that's, the teething of Farcaster / Warpcast, where I think their biggest hurdle is actually going to be the onboarding experience. So it's still pretty
right.
Web3 centric. I don't know if that will necessarily change. You know what? Actually, that's another thought, right? Like, basically, the way they're set up at the core is it's very wallet centric, right? So, like, anytime you sign up with a wallet.
Right.
And that in itself, I think, will be a bit of a blocker for like mass adoption. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a way to use other apps like Basement or other apps to get people, to just kind of reduce the friction of that onboarding experience.
Yeah.
And kind of step people in more gradually rather than just hitting them right in the face like, "Where's your MetaMask? Like, connect your Coinbase wallet or whatever."
Right. Well, then you got in there, like, do you want to use Ethereum or Base or all that sort of stuff? I mean, I'm taking screenshots of all these things because, if I'm trying to teach somebody, I need to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And good luck with that.
Yeah. So I think there's still challenges ahead, but it'll be cool. It'll be cool to.
Yep. All right, you got something going on there. Take your time, but whenever you put this on YouTube, I will then do the thing where I try and transcribe it and put it on Paragraph. We are getting numbers on Paragraphs, small ones, but what's interesting is I wonder where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because anybody that's attracted to that is hardcore. It's not a casual thing.
Yeah. That's true. That's cool.
So, and again, I want to condense all this into something
Yeah.
that can be a usable handbook and like a history of what you've been doing and
Yeah.
kind of my experiences, but
Cool.
get it out to a general audience. So thank you again. I'll let
Yeah.
you go.
All right. Cool,
Post it
Steven.
on.
Yeah.
Post it when you can,
Yeah.
and I'll try and get the cherry blossom thing up.
I'll send you the Loom link right after, but yeah, I'll try to do the YouTube like maybe later tonight.
Yeah, whenever. I know you're busy. Thank you.
All right, man.
Okay,
Talk
take
later.
care.
See ya.